April 22nd, 2026. A ceasefire had just been announced between the United States and Iran. News channels called it a pause, analysts called it progress, and for a brief moment, the world believed the worst had passed. Oil markets steadied, shipping routes reopened, and headlines began to shift away from war. But far from the cameras and official statements, in the narrow and unforgiving waters of the Strait of Hormuz, something far more dangerous was already unfolding. The sea that night was unusually calm. No storms, no heavy traffic, just a dark stretch of water carrying one of the most critical supply routes on Earth. Beneath that calm surface, tension moved silently. A U.S. Navy destroyer advanced steadily through the strait, its radar system scanning every inch of the surrounding waters. Inside its command center, officers monitored a single contact, an Iranian-flagged cargo vessel moving at a slow, deliberate pace. There was nothing unusual about its route, nothing alarming about its speed. But there was one problem. It wasn't responding. Repeated radio calls were sent. Standard identification requests. Warnings. Nothing came back. No signal, no voice, just silence. Inside the command room, that silence grew heavier with every passing second. The ship wasn't changing course, wasn't increasing speed, wasn't even attempting to acknowledge the presence of a U.S. warship tracking it. It was as if it didn't care. Or worse, as if it was meant to be found. The decision didn't take long. Orders came through, precise and controlled. Intercept the vessel. Disable if necessary. Boarding teams prepare. Within minutes, the quiet of the sea was broken by the thunder of helicopter blades slicing through the air. Shadows moved across the deck of the cargo ship as U.S. forces descended from above. Boots hit steel. Weapons were raised. Every step was calculated, every movement rehearsed. But as the team advanced deeper into the vessel, something didn't feel right. There was no resistance, no crew, no signs of struggle. Cabins were empty, equipment untouched, controls inactive. The ship wasn't just unresponsive, it was abandoned. For a brief moment, confusion replaced tension. A vessel like this didn't simply drift through one of the most heavily monitored waterways in the world without a crew. It didn't ignore military warnings. It didn't sit there, waiting. And yet, that's exactly what it was doing. The U.S. forces secured the ship quickly. No casualties, no confrontation. Mission successful, at least on the surface. But as reports were sent and systems were scanned, a question lingered in the background. If this ship wasn't meant to fight, then what was it meant to do? Hundreds of miles away, inside a secure Iranian command facility, a very different atmosphere filled the room. Large digital maps displayed the same stretch of water. Radar feeds updated in real time, and at the center of it all stood a group of commanders who had already seen the outcome. There was no surprise, no urgency, only confirmation. The moment the U.S. boarding operation began, Iran knew exactly what had happened. Because they had been watching it unfold in real time, and more importantly, they had been expecting it. A single statement broke the silence inside the room. If they take one of ours, we take control of the strait. Orders followed instantly. Fast attack boats were deployed from concealed positions along the coastline. Missile batteries were activated and locked onto pre-calculated coordinates. Communication lines opened across multiple units, each one already aware of its role. This wasn't a reaction. It was a sequence. And it had already begun. Hours passed. The sea remained dark but no longer quiet. Movement increased. Signals crossed paths. And then, just before dawn, 3 commercial vessels entered the strait. They were ordinary ships. Cargo carriers following established routes. Their crews unaware of the invisible tension surrounding them. To them, the ceasefire meant safety. It meant passage. It meant the danger had passed. They were wrong. Without warning, A signal cut through the radio channels. Unidentified. Sharp. Direct. Change course immediately. The crews froze. The message didn't match any known authority. It didn't follow standard protocol. Confusion spread across all three ships as captains attempted to verify the source. Calls were made. Frequencies were switched. But before any answer could return, the signal vanished. Silence followed. 3 seconds passed. Then 2. Then 1. Gunfire erupted across the water. From multiple directions, fast-moving boats surrounded the vessels, engines roaring as they closed the distance in seconds. Bright flares ignited the sky, turning darkness into chaos. Warning shots became direct hits. One of the ships attempted to turn away, but it didn't make it far. A precise strike disabled its engine, leaving it stranded in open water. The other two ships didn't get the chance. Boarding teams moved quickly. Ladders hit the sides. Armed personnel flooded the decks. Commands were shouted, weapons aimed, resistance crushed before it could even form. Within minutes it was over. 2 ships captured, 1 disabled, and an entire shipping route thrown into uncertainty. Back on the U.S. destroyer, the situation began to shift. Reports of the attacks reached the command center almost instantly. The pattern was clear. The timing was too precise. This wasn't random aggression, it was coordinated, and then attention turned back to the Iranian vessel they had seized earlier. Detailed scans revealed something critical. No cargo, no active systems, no strategic value. The realization hit slowly, and then all at once. This ship had never been the target. It had been the trigger. A decoy placed deliberately in one of the most sensitive regions in the world. Designed to be noticed, designed to be intercepted, designed to pull attention in one direction while something else unfolded somewhere far more important. This wasn't a reaction. The words echoed quietly in the command room. It was planned. While global focus locked onto a single intercepted vessel, the real operation had already moved forward. The strait wasn't just being contested anymore. It was being controlled, manipulated, and weaponized in real time. And just like that, the balance shifted. No official declaration of war followed that night. No immediate escalation filled the headlines. But the impact was undeniable. Shipping companies halted movement. Insurance rates surged overnight. Captains refused to navigate the waters without guarantees that no one could provide. The Strait of Hormuz remained open, on paper. But in reality, it had become something far more dangerous. A place where silence meant uncertainty, where movement meant risk, where every signal could be the last warning. And as the sun rose over the horizon, casting light across waters that had turned hostile overnight, one truth became impossible to ignore. The ceasefire had not ended the conflict. It had simply changed its form. Because that night, the strait was not officially closed, but no one wanted to sail through it anymore.